So yeah, how to run EFT circles in person and online. Obviously, the online thing is a big thing, especially since the whole COVID situation. Um, I think pre-COVID, it was people were more hesitant to do online work, but these days it's quite dominant. So I think it's good to know the skills to do both. And I like the idea of doing both. Both have pros and cons. And I think they're different skill sets. And obviously, yeah, I think just be open-minded to potentially do both, right? Okay, so just a quick self intro. Some of you may not know me at all. Some of you probably been, seeing me for on YouTube, whatever, for a couple of years. Some of you are students as well, or past students, so it's awesome to see you again. Yeah, so I kind of started my journey. I didn't when I left school, I didn't go to university. I started traveling. I was like, I don't know what I want to study. I'm not interested. And I realized through books and movies and stuff that going overseas and going to really strange cultures was a great way to learn. So I traveled a little bit of Australia. I went through New Zealand, and then I ended up in China teaching English. And I was there for about a year, and I got to travel all around China. This was over 20 years ago, so it was pretty different to what it is now. And I actually ended up in Wuhan teaching, and that's like the center point of where COVID came from. So I was there teaching for a while. It's like a mega city, like 8 million people, something like that. But it was really inspiring. I really felt drawn to like Buddhism, Chinese medicine, Tai Chi, these sorts of understandings of life and medicine. And, it just made sense. It just felt like they had more time to work it out, right? Which they did. Whereas Western sort of psychology and stuff felt new and they don't know they don't really know what's going on, right? But it felt like the older cultures had a better idea. So that's kind of why I gravitated towards it. When I came back, I studied massage and then I studied acupuncture. And then more recently, I studied more counseling because I wanted to get a better idea, more of a holistic understanding about the modern psychology approaches. And at first, I was like, oh, maybe I'm missing something, like maybe psychology and counseling has a lot of stuff that can really help clients and stuff. And it does. However, from studying and I've also become a stronger advocate of like Chinese medicine and EFT. I'm like, wow, these ones really do offer a lot, in my opinion, more effective. I don't want to, but maybe combining them is where it's at, right? Um, and yeah, I've been doing workshops for like a long time, like over 15 years, I realized. And I started out doing music festivals. It's an easy crowd, which I recommend. Music festivals are a great place to practice. Then I did more EFT stuff about 7, 8 years ago. I committed hardcore. I was a lecturer in Oriental medicine for a while at a college where I studied acupuncture. And now I'm like a teacher of EFT. I do one-on-one work as well. I've written a few books. I do like public talks. Yeah. So I've been in this space for like over 20 years now. And I'm always interested in things that are fast and efficient. There's a lot of great tools out there, some of them are a bit too complicated and it's hard to, I don't know, empower. Like I like the idea of education as an empowerment tool to help people manage their own health and well-being rather than becoming too dependent on a practitioner or getting too dependent on a particular doctor or a type of medicine. It's this idea of self lifestyle health management that I'm more drawn into. And EFT is so easy to practice and it's easy to teach. And, that's why I like it as well. And yeah, over the years, last year I actually started gathering up all the testimonials and I got over 800 testimonials. which I finally put in one spot. It was all over the place in different platforms. So that's awesome. It's like reassuring on the right track. I got a YouTube channel with about 32,000 subscribers. It really took off during COVID. And, I've worked with lots of different people. I've worked with the doctors, psychologists, nurses, healers, mothers, busy mothers, life coaches, nutritionists, all sorts of people in all different ways, right? Yeah. So that's a bit about me. So by the end of this little class today, I'm going to cover and you're going to understand why run EFT circles, how to run them. I'm going to give you a structure that you can use so that it feels like you're not going in cold. I'm also going to cover how you safely handle situations or maybe difficult situations that may come up, and 3 action tips to get started. Yeah, so things you can start right away, right? You can start them today. So the first thing what I needed to do is define what's the difference between a workshop and the difference between an EFT tapping circle, right? And what I came up with, and you can define it for yourself as well, but an EFT workshop is more educationally driven. And an EFT tapping circle is less education and more just practicing together, right? So it's really good to understand which one is which, what one you're going to do. And what I found through my experience, and you'll find it too, is that the workshop stuff, the educational element, is really for people who are beginning EFT. You can't really put a person who doesn't know EFT, who's never done it, and put them straight into a tapping circle because they don't know what's going on, right? They don't understand the basic methodology, right? They'll be confused, right? So what I realized is that on the front, there needs to be some kind of educational stepping stone into circles. And how you do that, there's a few options which I'll talk about later. But this is important to be aware of. If they're absolute beginners, you need an educational workshop component first. And then once people have got the basic skills and they know what's going on, then tapping circles work. Yeah. So the next question is, why do you want to run a tapping circle or a workshop? Because this will help you structure everything. It's like reverse engineering. You work out what the outcome is first. What is your outcome? And then you work out how to put it together by going backwards. So I'd like to ask you guys, you can unmute yourself. There's not too many people here, or you can send me a little chat thing. But I want to ask you, why do you want to run them? Like, what's the purpose? And there's no right or wrong answer as well. It's not a trick question. So does anyone want to share? Why do you want to run tapping circles?
I'll share. So I have, in the last few months, left a very, very abusive relationship of 17 years and found your tapping, and it has been changing my life and my responses to life from that situation. And I'm living in a complex where there are 29 other women that have come from the same situation, and they all have their own condos. We do have mandatory classes, and I just thought, this has helped me so much. Why not do tapping circles with these women as well? They're all looking for a way to be released from this trauma that we've all experienced. Thank you for doing this, Michael.
Wow, thank you. It's very powerful. Thanks, Cindy. So I've got another person who says, I'm more interested in joining a circle rather than running one. Yeah, okay, cool. So this could be helpful because, yeah, kind of like what I said about workshops versus circles, right? You'll be able to work out where to go or which one to follow. Anyone else? Why do you want to run a circle.
Okay, Joy, wanna share?
Sure.
Okay, because I suffer so much from childhood uh, trauma, and I want people to have some tools, like when you said it's educational and empowerment tools. So I don't need to, people don't need to wait until they have a anxiety or panic disorder and they have to see the doctor or rely on med. Because this is a tools that I wish someone could teach me when I was young. And sometimes I really want to teach children at a young age so they can go through life with the tools.
Mm,
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if you graduate from what MBA or PhD, you never have tools like this to help when you have problem. Yeah.
mm.
And maybe some corporate burn out because I was one of them. Yeah, so that's my dream. And tapping is still new in Thailand. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so more community sort of building, helping other people in your community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And it's really effective, better than some psychology session. Yeah.
cool. Thanks, Joy. Okay, so Cindy wrote, I'm a member of the 12 step groups and would like to add a time for tapping in the groups. Wow, that is cool. Yeah, yeah, that sounds amazing. I wonder what their response would be. I know that they're very global and powerful. Um, yeah, group. So yeah, it wouldn't hurt to speak to them and see what they said. I would love to see how they respond. Glenn wrote to train veterans about EFT and then conduct circles. Wow. So yeah, working with veterans, that's a big area, right? And I'm constantly, um, it seems like when people come out of the military services, there's really low or no support services or very ineffective support services, from what I understand. So they're very good at getting people into the military, but once you leave, it sounds like it's pretty bad. It's not that helpful. So that's an amazing area. Harani, I would like to help certain clients transition from individual to group work as a psychologist. Okay. So moving more into group work with clients. Tapping circles will be a familiar way to introduce group dynamics while keeping EFT constant. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Lucy, you raised your hand. Do you want to speak?
Yes, Michael. I am a member in a women's center where I do occasional workshops for a group of women. And I would like to introduce a workshop on EFT, explaining the basic principles, and then do a tapping circle with the women who will be attending.
Yeah. So you've already got a group, did you say? There's already a group of people?
Yes, it's a small group. When they come to my workshops, they're anywhere from 5 to 8 people.
Oh, okay. That's a great number. Yeah. Yeah. Have you spoken to them yet about?
No, but I recently gave a talk on vegetarianism,
Hmm.
and I have another one coming up in the spring. But at some point, I want to introduce EFT.
Great. Yeah. Great. Well, I'm sure today, like the little, as well as, so I'm going to be sending out the replay of this, but I'm also going to send you like this blueprint sort of layout, so that, yeah, it just covers everything I'm covering today in a more like document format, right? Great. Well, I'll keep rolling. And So there's really three primary reasons to put on a circle, and it can be all three reasons as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be there's only one reason I'm doing it. So the first one, like everyone pretty much pointed out today, is to build and support community, to nourish a community, to even meet new people, meet new friends, right? I've met lots of cool people from doing circles. I'm still friends with them today, and I wouldn't have met them if I didn't do it. So that's the first one. It really builds community. And I think particularly after COVID, people are really, they appreciate live, particularly live meetups more than they've ever done, right? So yeah, it's a very good tool. And I think the EFT is kind of like the glue that keeps the focus, right? Whereas like if you say like a networking group, it's a bit weird because you don't know what activities, for me, if like introverts, it's very weird or it's very uncomfortable. But EFT kind of gives you a focus, and it also helps people feel calmer. It helps regulate their system while you guys are hanging out, right? The second reason, or the second main purpose, is you can generate business leads. You can make money from it, right? And I'll talk about how you can do that later. And number three is you really build your skill set. So a really valuable skills is public speaking. Really valuable skills is like managing groups of people, managing human beings. It's a unique skill set, or it's a precious skill set. And also talking about EFT, leading EFT, that's another skill set, right? So it really develops important skills as as a person, right? So like I said, I do all three of these. What ends up happening, I build a sense of community. It 9 times out of 10, it generates leads and money from it. If not now, then down the track, because you've built relationships, which then, 6 months down the track, a year down the track, often I get a referral or, something happens. And of course, I'm building my skills. I'm trying to get better as a speaker. I'm putting things back together, managing people. Okay, so let me get into a bit of the nuts and bolts of this. So I'll talk about in person first. So in person obviously has the benefit that you're all sharing space. The main disadvantage is that it's going to cost money. There's more resources required because you need a venue, right? A venue can be a cafe, it could be a big house, it could be a festival space, it could be a yoga studio, a community center. Yoga studios, for example, are empty most of the time. If you think about it, they usually have class in the morning, class in the evening, but in the middle of the day, they're empty. So yoga studios, and even on the weekends, maybe there's more class on the weekends, but a lot of the time they're empty. And I know from experience, I was a yoga teacher in Australia for 7 years, is that the studio owners are always looking for ways to fill the space, to generate even a little bit of money from it and it's like marketing as well. So if they have a different kind of event in their yoga studio, it'll attract more people to their studio, which then they can, sell yoga classes down the track. So yoga studios are actually looking for people to bring in, right? And it's a nice space. It's a sacred space. Again, festivals, music festivals, they're fantastic. I call them an easy crowd. It's an easy crowd. I don't think I've ever been rejected from doing an application at a music festival. And one of the advantages is I get a free ticket. So some of these festivals, like in Australia, are $400 a ticket. I get a free ticket for running an hour and a half workshop. So I get paid $400 to go talk about EFT or whatever, and then I get to party as well. So it's a really good deal.
Hey, Michael, this is Arma.
Yep. Hang on.
And I, for probably now 4 years, I developed a flyer. I was going to do Dr. Joe Dispenza reading clubs at our local library. And the library won't charge anything because they're always looking for community programs.
Yeah.
So I am all for in person because it builds community within the community. So it's an extension into the community.
Yeah.
So I don't have per se a community already that I would introduce it to. I want to provide this service to the community. My big concern is what's my own success story with EFT? That's what I'm looking forward. Yes. So how can I represent something that I haven't had a perceived success with? And I have certain goals that I use EFT for, and that's my benchmark. So perhaps you could touch upon that in your presentation.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be harder to speak about a subject if you don't have direct experience with it, right? So you're saying that you're doing EFT, but you're not getting the results that you're looking for?
Correct. Correct. There are definitely benefits, and I have a slew of EFT meditations that I've kept in my own playlist that I do all the time. And maybe it's just my path in life not to have the certain thing I'm desiring, because it certainly has brought about other disciplines that I may have just not been as sharp to go through had I received what it is that I perceive that I would be very skilled at receiving.
Yeah, so that's a tricky one, and it is a personal thing, right? It is going to be hard to talk about something if you're not internally backing it from your own experience. So that's probably the first thing that comes to mind is if it doesn't hit with you and doesn't align with you inside, then it's probably not a good idea to move on it until it does or something else changes, right? However, there's other ways of experiencing it because sometimes I see experiences in other people, like if I'm working with clients or, you read studies or I read other people's things. They get huge benefits. They have life transforming experiences. And that's what I can refer to. Like I use that as my social proof or as my, you know,
Yeah.
because yes, and that gives me more power, like not me personally, but it gives me more like
Mhm.
enthusiasm for it. When I see how other people get transformed from it, and then I see how the science works, and then I get some benefit. So I'm like, wow, this can be really helpful. So that's another way to boost your confidence in it is to actually see the effects on other people.
And the reality is that there have been benefits. So Glenn, thank you for your service. If you're a veteran, we're an Air Force family. And so I could do a tapping exercise where I'm concerned about my daughter who's overseas because she's a crew chief over a refueling jet. So she travels all over the world. And so there are benefits. And I can speak to that and say, you know what, I'm human too. I have goals that I'm working on too while I'm doing this. So I'm working on those and expecting those to be realized. So yeah, we're all, humans in this process. And yes, there are definitely benefits that have been recognized. So those are my successes.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. It's like, yeah, you don't have to be fully, like I say,
Yeah,
you don't have to be fully realized or a Buddha
yeah, yeah,
to be a facilitator or even a therapist. Like we're all dysfunctional inside, we're all neurotic in some way. So it's it's okay to be, to be like
yeah,
that as well. Right.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Lucy, yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Michael, I wanted to say that in my circle of friends, I often am tapping on the side of my hand
Mm,
to facilitate my digestive system
mm,
based on the course I had with you. And my friends will say, well, what are you doing? And I say, well, if you want to activate your digestive system and to help your digestive system, you tap on the side of your hand. And I give the basic sentence.
mm.
And then I also tell them those that feel stressed and that feel anxious or cannot sleep at night, I say, well, tap on your chest. It's going to calm down your nervous system.
Mm.
These are my two best examples where I get the best results.
Mm. And so easy to communicate that, right? It's not complicated.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're the easiest two gestures, I would call them,
Yeah.
to talk about, because I can't start explaining to them the 9 gamuts.
Yeah.
They've never,
It's too
those that
complicated.
have never been exposed to EFT. Some of them have been exposed to EFT. They've heard about it. They've practiced it maybe here and there. But I find those two gestures come in very, very handy.
Mm. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Lucy.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, so that was a little bit on the in-person, right? So you need to think of a venue situation. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. So the next thing I want to touch on is like the free model versus the paid model. The free model is you basically, it's a free event, right? So come to my EFT workshop, come to my EFT circle, it's free, right? That obviously it draws more people in. You're going to get more people in through the door. I'd say it's a good idea, particularly when you're starting, like you want to build your community or build your business. You just want to practice. You want bodies in the room, right? So it's I recommend it as probably a really good model, particularly when you're starting out or testing things. The paid model is when you say, okay, come to my workshop, it's $20, or come to my circle, it's $50. So that is, you're going to get less people, obviously, than a free one. And it's probably better, you can do it, but it's better when you're more established. Maybe you're more established in the community as an expert in a particular area. Maybe like you're an oncologist or a psychologist in this particular area, and you've got all these skills. And then it's like, oh, this person is now doing a workshop. You see, you put money on it there. And so when money's involved, people do take it more seriously. I'll say that as well. It's a part of psychology. Humans are interesting creatures. When we see something as free, generally we don't value it as much. That's a broad statement. But when we put money on things, we take it more seriously. Like the focus time goes up, right? Because we're invested. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. And obviously, when you do a paid gig, you're going to be covering your costs a bit more. So if I rent a cafe or a yoga studio, I'm going to get my money back straight on the day. But the free version is I'm going to be out of pocket, right? I'm going to upfront the fee, upfront the cost of renting the yoga studio or whatever. And then what I recommend, I'll talk about is that's when you make the money later, right? And I'll show you how to do that. But you've got to take the financial hit up front. And the paid gig is better when you know you've got a subject people really want. Whereas free is more like you're testing the subjects. You don't know what subject really, what people want yet. And so you need to test a few ideas. So the free version obviously is a good one for that. So a case study that I did. So this is in Chiang Mai in Thailand. I rented a cafe space. And what I said to them was, okay, I want to rent this space every Thursday from 1 till 3 p.m. Now, the workshop went for about an hour, hour and a half max, but I just wanted an extra half an hour so I didn't feel rushed and we could hang out and talk, basically. So I rented it for 2 hours. And at the time, I didn't know what the subjects were. I was just like, just give me the space for the next 3 months. So what's that? It's like 12 weeks in a row. And so it only cost me, I think, $50 or something like that. And the agreement was that I encouraged the participants to buy something from the cafe while they're at the workshop, right? And that was it. And then I was testing. So week 1, I would post EFT for back pain. The next week I would test EFT for motivation. The next one, EFT for this, EFT for that. And I'd just come up with different ideas. Maybe I'd run the same one, the next month I'd run it again, the same sequence. And this was a way to test my ideas, see how many people showed up. And usually I got 7 to 15 people showing up every week, depending on the subject. There were definitely some subjects that popped out, like for pain, like physical pain is a hot topic. I think I can't remember the exact statistic, but something like 80% of the reason people go see a doctor is because of physical pain. So it's a great it's a large motivator to make people take action when they have pain, right? So, and what happened is I met these people every week. I met new people from all around the world. And then some of them became my friends, some of them became my clients later on. And this is what usually happens is sure, I take the financial hit at the front, but out of like 10 people that come to my workshop, 1 or 2 of them will become my clients down the line. And one sale or one package that I sell is like $1,000. So I make all my money back easily and a lot more, even though I'm taking the financial hit on the front. And this is the model that I would recommend, is to always have an offer in the background that you've already got worked out, because there will be some people that come to your workshops or circles and they want more. They want more personalized attention. They want more help. They like you. And so it's smart just to have something that you can offer them, right? And I'll talk more about how to do that a little bit more later. So the next case study, so I had this big house. I rented this big house with my partner, and it was they call it the Rainbow House. The community called it the Rainbow House. Upstairs is this big thing. We're in the hills in northern Thailand. And downstairs we had this massive space. And there was like a rainbow thing painted on the floor. And I started running workshops there. Again, I did every week the same time, and I'd just post on Facebook or whatever community forums are around. And again, I changed the subject. So this week I'm doing pain. Next week I'm doing intro to EFT. The next one I'm doing intro to Chinese medicine. The next one I'm doing, like, I'm just testing. And yeah, like it was a smaller amount of people came because the place I was living is a smaller place. I got about 3 to 7 people show up every week. It was a great way to build my skills, build my friend network. And at that time, I didn't make any money from it because I didn't have an offer. So this is the thing. I had people interested in working with me more, but I had no idea about making an offer. I had no package to offer. So I just ran these, built the network, and that's fine. But there's only, if you can burn out pretty easy if you're just constantly putting on events, helping, holding space, managing people, and then doing it day in, day out without any financial, support. It can burn you out, I think. And that's when I realized that there needs to be because I wanted to do just circles, let's get together and tap. But people that were coming were absolute newbies, and I couldn't just go, let's tap. So I had to put the educational component on the front. And then therefore it became, I have to do EFT workshops first, like level 1 first. And then once they're through that, then we can do circles. Right. That's what I realized. And I think it's the same for nearly every modality. You've got to have a front educational aspect. And then once people pass that, then it's easy just to go into circles. And this is like some pictures. So this is under the house. There's a massive like rainbow circle on the floor. And we used to have cacao ceremonies. We used to have workshops. We had ecstatic dances underneath this house. And then we had like a party here, so we're all sitting around it. Yeah, so that's an example if you've got a big space at home or somewhere that you can work and experiment with your ideas. Cool. So just quickly about the online stuff. So we're talking mainly about in person. Now I'll talk a little bit about being online. So the main benefit of being online is that you don't need the venue, right? Of course, you still need a space and stuff to practice. You need an office or whatever it may be. But because of the no venue, it's going to cost a lot less money. It's more financially friendly. And the free model is recommended for online. Again, if you're new, running free online EFT circles and workshops is the way to go. But I think the main challenge with it is you need to cut through a lot of the noise. You know, online, there's just so much stuff everywhere all the time now. And posting at once isn't really enough these days. You need to have sort of a more dynamic advertising mechanism. Different pictures, different copywriting, different, like I think what I heard recently, it takes about 7 touch points for people to actually remember and take action on things. So if you see a post, one post, you'll go, oh yeah, that's interesting, and then pass. So 7 touch points is you see the same post or something about the event about 7 times. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's on average. So people need reminders all the time about it. And this is kind of one of the things, particularly if you're new in business or new working with online stuff, is there's a hesitation to overpost, feel a bit spammy, posting like reminder here, here's an email, da da da. And I totally get that. And I think everyone is worried about that. However, when you look at the data and all the stuff, all the marketing data is, again, most people need 7 touch points. So if you post 10 times, they're not going to see all 10 of them. They might see 6 of those. So now you've got to post 20 times to get 7 touch points. You know what I mean? So it's actually more than you think. You have to post more than you think. Something to be aware of. Okay, so the other thing that's going to help you cut through the noise is that you have a good subject. And this is where you want to do a bit of research. Like I said, EFT for pain is one of those subjects that pops out. People will take notice. And then you've got to test out the other ideas. Some ideas are going to flop, and that's okay. It's normal, right? 3 bad ideas to 1 good idea, something like that, right? Expect three flops to 1 good, right? But once you get an online community going, it's generally easy to keep it going. And at every event, you promote the next event. So it's one way to build momentum. You've got to have the next event already in place by the time you run the first event, so that it flows to the next. So you're not chasing again, right? And then so the next event, you have to have the next event ready, right? So you got to keep the momentum rolling. Otherwise, it's really hard to stop, start. And you can use email lists, of course, WhatsApp groups to like keep everyone in one space, communication. Probably a WhatsApp group is probably a good space, or a Telegram group. Obviously Zoom, cameras, microphones, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you've got to work out what is the communication vehicle to keep everyone in the loop, right?